Hello, everyone. This is the Day Trip Squad podcast. We are a group of individuals that are on the autism spectrum. Please enjoy our latest episode.
Tune into the Day Trip Squad where the vibe is always right. Live for people linking forever. We're shining a bright light on young adults with autism, sharing stories, having fun. Join us, won't you? The adventure's just begun.
Welcome, everyone, to the fifth installment of People Incorporated's Day Trip Squad podcast. I am Chad Lawton. Alongside me here, I have Sam Freitas and Nicholas Botello. The topic of this evening is summer and the balance of a new schedule from an autism spectrum individual's perspective. Now, starting with Nicholas, how do you acclimate with the change of not having school every day when you were a kid and now in community college?
First of all, it's okay that you messed up. We do that sometimes. But when it comes to summer, I always picture it much in the same way you picture it in High School Musical too. Like you're waiting in a classroom and you're staring at the clock in elementary school, middle school, high school, doesn't matter. And the second that bell rings, everybody's out. We don't do it as fast, but whenever summer vacation comes around, I back then I used to get really excited because I didn't have a lot of homework to do. The bad news is when it came to elementary school, I had summer school, so it was quite literally more the same around that time. Now, when you get to high school, when I got to high school, it was a lot of okay, what now? I suddenly am not burdened anymore by all this schooling or whatever. So back then, I'd usually go to my father. He worked roofing mainly, and I'd help him around, like picking up stuff, getting tools for him, that sort of thing. In college, once the spring semester ends, I don't feel as much of okay, what now, as I used to do. As soon as my classes end, I take a big, deep breath. I made it through this. Doesn't matter. None matters in terms of school anymore. I can wait until fall. And what I would do is I would help out my mother and my father. Basically, help out around the house, fill up waters, that sort of thing. My father always usually says that when I don't have school, you fill the water, you clean the dishes, that sort of deal. It's this sort of responsibility on me that, much like when it comes to the summer school back in elementary school, it clings on to me and it's another obligation that I have to do. I'm fine with this obligation. I know I have this obligation, but it's still an obligation nonetheless. So Sam, I want you to focus on the public school system right now. When it comes to elementary school, middle school, and high school, how did you feel when summer vacation began?
Well, quite frankly, an awesome feeling, because having a little less of a schedule was something I kind of look forward to. In a kid's brain, you look forward to salvation. You look forward to the feeling of just getting to the next thrill, and at least in my case, having all of my educational work paid off. That being said, it was bittersweet in a similar kind of way to what you said, because I remember explicitly when I was in middle and high school that each summer there would be a required reading assessment that they would have us take by the end of August or around early September, when school would start back up. Basically, it's so much as to say, before you even think about hibernating and all that, we're going to keep you sharpened. And I also remember at one point they would give us a sheet of summer math equations, which is as fun as it sounds, but I respect it a little more than I did back then. And because how I look at it now is, now that I've gone into an adult life where there's somewhat less structure than when I was in the school system, I do respect that more, because I feel like there's more satisfaction for me to be had in an age where I'm expected to develop my skills, where I'm expected to push my horizons, and whenever I do learn something new, whether that's driving or that's engaging in music, those little things are where I start to derive my pleasure from now, because I'm turning myself into a stronger version of myself. If I'm gaining these skills, then I'm expressing myself in ways that I couldn't have fathomed before. It truly is this multi-dimensional, this thrilling kind of thing that feels awesome whenever I get to it. It may still bittersweet that there's less structure than I had back then, but I'm appreciating it for what it is.
Thank you very much, Sam. Let's throw it back to chat.
Well, gentlemen, it seems that you are eager to talk about some activities. So, on the next question, which is about activities, starting with you, Sam, I'd like to ask, what were some fun activities you like to do in the summer to keep you busy?
Basically, whatever came by. If it meant a trip to Six Flags, for example, that was always on my watch. I'm trying to figure out the best way to respond to this, but as a person with a lot of imaginative meditations, which I still do to this day, you'd be more likely to find me in the middle of one of my self-guided walks where I might zone out from people for a little bit and dabble in whatever I got in my headspace, which can be a variety of different subjects. And so I feel good that way, because I'm not just dabbling in a world of physicalities and reality, but in a world of possibilities and dreams. I've always thrived on the what if. I've always thrived on the creative. And I feel like if that's stripped away from me, I'm not really myself. The things that I tend to have fun with most, like going to Six Flags, like I said earlier, or going to a park, like it's those kinds of experiences are compelling to me because I'm given a chance to go outside the house, move my legs around, roam around a little bit, and then I feel a release. I feel a sense of escapism, a sense of self-expansion, and seeing what can I add to my imagination that I didn't have before. The more I add to that, the more of myself that starts to be revealed. I am one with my imagination, so to speak. So I think when it's summer and there's more time for me to be able to kick back and do some of the things that activate imagination, that's my euphoria.
Well, self-awareness is very important. Now, I'd like to ask you, Nicholas, the same question. What are some of your activities that you do for fun in the summer?
Much like Sam, I'm pretty much a creative person. And one sort of creative experience that I want to bring up today is when it came to Camp Welch. I was a member of the Boys and Girls Club of Fall River back when I was in elementary school and to around like the start of middle school. And every summer we would go up to Camp Welch up near like Freetown, Berkeley, that sort of area. One day while I was at the camp, by the way, the camp is a very nice place. There's a lot of nature, there's a lot of scenery. It helps me get creative. One day, one of the activities, there was a sandcastle contest. So I decided to be like very creative on that day. I imagined, if you will, like when I was playing around the sand, I was like almost like a god. I was building up and creating like this sort of mountain. It was a mountain of sand, but maybe in my little mind back then, I imagine like rocks. I'd imagine like I'd get like a bucket of water and I poured it on the top of the mountain, and it would spill down almost like it's lava. and I built up this creative story of like an ancient fertility curse that'd be placed on people when they went up the mountain. And all this creativity, even though it was kind of unique, it was different, and that it was fun to me. It was exciting. It allowed me to explore all these possibilities. And I was a creative force behind this team. This was a team effort, and we ended up winning that contest. And we won like ice cream bars. I'm ice cream pops. Yeah, ice cream pops for that because I let out my creativity much in the same way as Sam did. But nowadays, when everything's not as busy like in college, I usually tend to focus on like more so like how to be like creative when it comes to like being in my room and that sort of deal. There's a lot of stuff that I really want to talk about when it comes to that, but sorry. I'm just kind of thinking about it right here, but usually when I have the time, I go with my father, and we would go up and get up all the collected bottles, all the collected cans that we get, and we'd actually redeem the deposits. We go up there, we take like a little mini adventure, and we go up to the redemption center. And we would be putting in these bottles and these cans one after the other. It was meticulous work, but it was rewarding work. It helped me get like a little bit busy in like a lull period. It'd be one bottle, one can, another can, another can. Sometimes it won't work, but nobody's perfect, as my mom and dad would usually say. So when we're done, we get our redemption money. And you'd be saving this in this bank, and we'd like fill up with like bills and coins we collect from our redemptions. So one day we can go over to my parents' homeland of the Azores, San Miguel Island, and we'd spend like a great vacation there. Essentially, it's just those little bottles and cans. To you and I, once we're done with them, we throw them out. We put them recycling. We don't care about them. But to me, they act as like part of this journey, this sort of like hobby that I pick up every once in a while to keep me busy throughout the summer.
I must say, gentlemen, I must give you my respect for your creativity. It is a very fulfilling, very joyful thing to have, isn't it? And well, speaking of things like joy and fulfillment, I perhaps would say this next question could be as equally relevant. So, starting with you, Nicholas, what was your favorite summer vacation as a kid that you went on?
I have plenty of great summer vacations. Like I said, I brought up like the Azores Islands when I talked about the redemption, the redeeming the Pearls of Kings. This year, I was able to go with my parents on this 2-week trip up to the Azores, up to San Miguel Island, where my parents grew up, where most of my relatives in Portugal are. It was a very scenic, very nice time. I saw the Furnas. I went up to Ribeira Grande. I stayed a little bit. We explored Ponta Delgada, and it was Ponta Delgada. We came to San Miguel at the right time because my parents and we went to see the Festas de Senhor de Santo Cristo, the Saint Christ feast, essentially. It's like this. It was like this beautiful. It was like this 2-week, almost like a 1-week event. It was plopped in the middle of Ponta Delgada, the beating heart of the city, and it was something that my parents wanted to go for a long time. Ever since they came here to America, a part of them basically rested in that festa. It rested in that festa, and seeing the image of our Lord Jesus Christ, his crown of thorns on his head. I could feel my mom and dad. They got to see Christ. They got to see the image of Christ again. It was like it was beautiful. Welcome back to San Miguel. It said to irradiate to me. It radiated to my parents. And to be honest, a part of me kind of was left there in San Miguel, and mainly because of the festa. Even though my family was more important, that was basically the best trip I ever had, and I want to go back to the festa again sometime.
Very good. Sam, would you care to share something?
Absolutely. Well, among vacations that specifically took place during the summer, probably my best bet would have to be around July 2015, roughly. That or 2016. I know it happened both of those years, but I remember it was a trip that I took up to Lincoln, New Hampshire, where we stayed at a lodge up at Loon Mountain Resort, where the extended family would share a couple of rooms, 3 different floors. And so not only was that particular part of the experience wholesome and gave me a chance to be able to connect to my closest relations, but I was able to experience some of my perennial favorites, such as Clark's Trading Post and the Pemigewasset River and a climb up Loon Mountain, and practically everything within a 10-mile radius. That's what made that part of New Hampshire so illuminating to me. Like that, if there's one place that I'd go back to as much as I would the rest of my family, I have a good reason that would be the place. And doing that with extended family just adds an extra layer of sentimentality to it. And going back to my theme of escapism, part of the reason I like to go out into nature, where New Hampshire is going to have a lot of that gave me plenty of opportunity for escapism. It gave me plenty of opportunity to take myself away from a reality built on social constructs and social worries, that I could just listen to the leaves and the trees crinkle, the water rush beneath my feet, the cold temperature of the Pemi running through my toes. It was those experiences that gave me a chance to understand what a vacation is all about. And a vacation, so to speak, is just another word for escapism. Our chance to get away from it all.
Yeah. When it comes to me, I just thought about escaping from school, saying bye-bye. But anyway, gentlemen, the final question before we conclude, starting with you, Sam. I'd like to ask, well, I mean, yeah, we just talked about escaping school. Well, I guess now we have to admit that eventually all the good things come to an end. So what are the challenges of getting back in the routine of the school year?
Well, you've hit a very juicy question there, my friend. As far as I can tell, it was something that became less potent as I got older, but the reason that it would have had a negative effect on me as much as it would any other kid is that all of a sudden the structure was coming back and you were limited on the kind of behavior you were allowed to display or the relationships that you had with your friends and loved ones. Now that you were back in a class, you were in a vibe that felt a lot more monotonous, that actively discouraged the kind of imaginative motorcycle riding kind of dogma that you were trying to chase all that time. And you chase it all that time because you want to feel like you want to feel like you could be away from it forever. And when you go back to school, you're just coming back to that reality. And when you're a kid, you struggle to admit that because you're not in the mood to admit things. You're not in the mood to admit that if bad things end, so should good things. All empires fall. All empires fall because just like how humans die or how rocks erode, and like atoms start to take form in new shapes, the universe is just one big crumbling mechanism. And a kid would not be able to understand that, but in my older life, it's become easier for me to appreciate. Near the end of my high school tenure, it was easier for me to appreciate going back into school because the first few days felt relatively light on responsibility. So it helped me segue into the year more efficiently. And instead of letting school define who I was, even though I still kept myself productive and quote unquote studious, I learned to be creative within the boundaries of respectable school behavior, which is a dogma that has helped allow me to grow up into who I am today. And whenever I come to work here at People Incorporated, it's a tradition that I carry with me so that I may be able to step into work in a brand of productivity that only so many others might have. It truly is a blessing to be able to carry that gift with me, and here's to hoping that the remaining years of my life will come to be defined by this sense of creativity. It truly has been a lifesaver.
And you, Nicholas?
Well, to be honest, Sam does bring out a lot of points. I do want my mind to go back to when I was in second grade. Second grade, start of school, first day of school. Sam talked a lot about how during summer you get like all this carried away, and as soon as you know, you go from limousine riding, jet flying, to suddenly, okay, class, time for school to start again. It was during second grade where I was basically lost on the first day of school in like this summer phase of my year. I was basically I was a summer child in a summer soul inside of a second grader's body. I ended up failing that first day of school miserably. And it had this toll on me, and it kind of reverberates around me. You need to do better. You need to get into school shape as soon as the first day comes back knocking again. Preferably when it's like 1 mile away. You get a sign that says, new school year, 1 week. I basically gave myself 1 week. When that 1 week hits, I go for my summer shell and I go back into my school world. It's this second grade experience that basically carries my way to college. Because as soon as I can, as soon as it's like a week, 2 weeks, maybe even 3 weeks before class starts, I prepare everything. I prepare my books, I prepare my notebooks, my pencils, and I have plenty of pencils that should last me around like another 2-3 semesters at this point. Because let's be fair, during those days in elementary school, middle school, high school, I buy more pencils than I needed. Frankly, it's this feeling of rigidity, that feeling that you have to be elastic. You have to be elastic during summer, but you have to snap back to rigidity when fall hits. It's basically baked in me. And I like to owe that to that one time in second grade where I didn't snap back in time. That one moment where I allowed myself to be a kid for one more day than I needed to. And if I talked to my second grade self that was crying on the way back home on the bus, saying, "This is the worst day of my life," I would tell him in the face. I would tell him right in front of his eyes, like he saw the worst thing ever to occur. And I would say to him, "Nicholas, there's one thing I want you to know from this day. You need to get yourself in gear as soon as it feels like school is about to come back. You need to be ready before that bell strikes, not when that bell strikes."
Well, those are some very unique stories, gentlemen. Although, I'm afraid we are out of time for this episode, but so I will be thanking you, and I ask please tune in to future episodes.
Tune into the Day Trip Squad where the vibe is always right. Live for people linking forever. We're shining a bright light on young adults with autism, sharing stories, having fun. Join us, won't you? The adventure's just begun.
Thank you for tuning in today. We've created a place to connect with like-minded individuals and stay up to date with the latest DTS news. Our Facebook group regularly features event announcements and cancellations, monthly newsletters and calendars, and plenty of photos from our outings. This is a private group with exclusive content that is not featured on the public Family Support Center page. Come be a part of a vibrant, supportive, and engaging community. Join today.
Tune into the Day Trip Squad.